Try as one might, a man does not exist with raid alone. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Godforge. Yes, Godforge, the available soon game from Fateless Games. I will be covering that. I've started this channel here. I am excited about covering it. I'm excited to dive into the alpha. I just finished talking with their team, and I am going to be a part of whatever their content creator thing is going on right now. They don't have an official content creator program yet, but I am in the alpha consideration portion of it, which means I will actually get a chance to cover all 3 levels of the alpha. I finished setting all of that up, and I am excited to finally get a chance to cover this game and honestly open this channel. Now, I have been following some of this stuff off and on for a little while. I will readily admit I am not the type of person to get so hyped up in the development of something that I will be following it for months and months and months and years. But that said, I have been doing that with Godforge to some extent. Now, I have certainly dipped my feet into it much more recently, and of course with the announcement that the alpha will be happening soon. In fact, I know Wave 2 starts on the 15th. I'm not exactly sure when Wave 1 starts, but we are talking about next month. We are talking about August, when we should be having the first couple of waves going on. Maybe even Wave 1 might be the end of July. Regardless, I am super excited to be a part of Godforge. I am super excited to be covering Godforge, and I'm certainly excited to be, making videos for you guys so that you can hopefully find a game that you enjoy in Godforge as well. Now, this is not going to impact any other content that I am creating. I am certainly dedicated to my other channel. I am certainly dedicated to Raid. I enjoy Raid. This is not me looking for something to replace Raid. That said, this is something that is definitely interesting. And if you guys enjoy it and you guys enjoy my content and this takes off as well, you certainly might see more of a focus on the Godforge than you would on the Raid. I am willing to follow where you guys want me to go, and honestly, where my own interests take me as well. But I am super excited about this. I think Hell Hades has got a wonderful, wonderful team that he has put together. I guess Simon, what we should be calling him here, but most of you Raid folks will know him as Hell Hades. He is actually Simon. He is one of the heads of Fateless. There's a bunch of people that are Raid content creators or former Raid content creators that are certainly involved in Godforge, but there's also a pretty good set of developers and other team members in this space as well. So what is Godforge? Well, Godforge is going to be a mythos focused using real world-ish mythos. And I say real world-ish because obviously it is historical, the Greek mythos and the Roman mythos and the Aztec mythos and stuff like that. But there's obviously some fantasy elements to some of those mythoses as well. And there might even be, mythoses that are not real mythos. For example, we might find some Lovecraftian stuff in here as well. I don't know if they've actually approached some of that, or they have not ruled it out necessarily. So it should be very interesting to see how they weave the story, how they weave the story of us. It's definitely interesting that they have a story in mind for this. And to be fair, I'm honestly not necessarily always the huge fan of story in these games, because oftentimes I just like to, smash into things and deal with the challenges that these type of games create. But I'm interested to see what veterans of the gacha fantasy genre are going to do for a game. They have certainly been vocal with their criticisms of games like Raid, games like King Arthur, games like Theria Reforged or whatever the new one is. It's multiple games like this. These are people that have been involved in games like this, Summoner's War, and these are people who are veterans of this style of game. They certainly know what the old pain points are. They know what the modern pain points are. They obviously do have to build a game where they can certainly make money off of this as well. So there will certainly be monetization of some kind. But hopefully the free-to-play experience will be interesting enough as well, so that this can be played free-to-play, this can be played as a pay-to-win, and if there's a good enough balance, there is room for both in games like this to be able to support people that are looking to spend money, as well as people that are just interested in not spending money and doing something kind of casually. I am certainly excited about it. I will certainly do some deep dives into some of the mechanics of the game that I am aware of. I have seen some of them talking about the stats, how these things like accuracy and resistance are going to work. In fact, I just finished watching a video where they were talking about the accuracy and the resistance. At the moment, at least in the alpha, they're not intending to have a guaranteed level of failure always be present. So the quote unquote 3% in raid is not going to be present, at least in the alpha of Godforge. Now, they also didn't say that that's not something that's not ever going to happen. And to be fair, I do understand that there's always the itty bitty risk of failure in some of these things, makes something a little more interesting. That said, the 3% makes things really frustrating the way it tends to present itself in raid, particularly because 3% you're getting into a larger factor where it can be a problem. But as somebody that's come from a D&D background where, for example, a natural 1 is guaranteed failure and a natural 20 is almost guaranteed success, I do understand the desire to have a little bit of the there's always a chance and there's always never a chance it goes perfectly can be interesting, even these type of games where you're trying to run consistently and do things consistently. I'm interested in their buffs and their debuffs, and there's controls. And I like the fact that controls are split off from buffs and debuffs, which means that things that manipulate controls can be interesting. Things that manipulate buffs can be interesting, and things that manipulate debuffs can be interesting. But dealing with all three of them makes for an interesting possible time. They have talked about how things like controls aren't necessarily going to be simply bosses are immune to them. So controls are naturally something you often use for waves, but they're very useless against bosses in games like this traditionally. And they're going to do their best to not make sure that champions that might, for example, place freeze, they might still get a chance to actually place that freeze, but they're not going to actually get the full benefits of freeze. So yes, you're not going to be able to necessarily completely crowd control the boss, but you can at least apply some of what the crowd controls do. And if the crowd controls are made to be interesting and different and used differently, it's kind of interesting. They've talked about the damage over time debuffs working a little bit differently as well for bleed versus acid, for example. And those are interesting as well, whereas one of them is a permanent stack and will just kind of trickle off some HP, and another one will certainly do a larger amount of HP, but it drops off every time. So there's, pluses and minuses of using some of those as well. I'm interested how they're going to manage the stats. I'm interested how they're going to manage things like speed, because speed in games like this oftentimes is a god tier stat. And if you don't balance things correctly, it can lead to speed over absolutely everything else. And one of the goals in the design of this game is that every single stat has an impact on every single champion to some extent. They even talked about accuracy having an additional focus for allowing you to do strong hits. So if you have a strong hit, the ability to do a strong hit on, let's say, an affinity, strong hits are still always going to be a thing, and higher accuracy champions will be able to do that strong hit maybe a little bit more often than champions without accuracy, beyond simply being able to land buffs and debuffs. So I think things like that can make for some interesting mechanics as well. Hopefully the way that resistance is balanced will be interesting. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I'm excited about with this. Now, my understanding of the alpha, and I'll leave a link down below where you guys can actually get to their website and sign up for the alpha, and hopefully you'll get a chance to get in. I know Wave 1 and Wave 2 are probably mostly taken care of. I believe Wave 3 is going to be a much more open one, and Wave 1 is going to be a lot more of a showcase for people, very early access, as well as a lot of bug fixes. And then they're going to try to fix some bugs and get to stage 2. And then there's going to be some more bugs and evolution before you get to stage 3. And that's all alpha testing. So it's not going to be complete. The game is not going to look fully polished, although it certainly looks very good. I am not expecting it to look maybe I'm expecting it to look about like what Raid sort of does right now, but I'm not expecting a top tier AAA look in a game at the moment because they are still working on the effects. And a lot of what they are doing right now is doing the minimum to make the game function and make it look presentable, but it's not necessarily going to have the polish on it. And that's the type of stuff that, lighting effects get added, tessellation effects, things that add occlusion can actually help add depth to textures. Some of that stuff, that's all the fine tuning. And you might think it's not a big deal, but I can show you two different images where they haven't done those effects and then they have done those effects. And you might actually say it's the difference between a game from 2010 and a game from 2025. So I'm not expecting the presentation to be top tier yet. I'm expecting it to look good, but it's certainly not going to be the most amazing looking game to start. It's not going to look like, well, for example, use King Arthur Legends Rise is probably a good example of a game that looked really, really good really early on. But that game was fully made when I played it. It was using Unreal Engine 5 and, it looked good, but, looks are not everything. Right now, what we're looking for is functional gameplay testing for how some of the gearing works, testing for some of the gear sets, testing for some of the champions, and I'm certainly excited for it. Now, what the alpha test is going to be is it's going to be basically like a tower-style climb or descend, or however you want to call it, where you basically get your way through various floors for various rewards, where you can unlock gear and champions and other stuff like that. And I don't think they're going to have the summoning available, at least in some of the early ones. I don't know if they're going to have any monetization in some of these early ones as well. But there will be ways to challenge yourself. It sounds like they're going to try to have some rewards that will be, mostly cosmetic, but maybe something kind of cool for people that participate in this as well. But it shouldn't be anything that if you don't want to participate in something like this, and this is not really your forte, because you like to, once you're sinking your teeth into a game, you want to be the one playing the game that you're going to be playing for a while. Well then, follow the channel, follow along. You can certainly see how I'm enjoying it, see how other people are enjoying it. My plan is to probably stream it occasionally if I can. I know I have not been streaming a lot outside of CatHerder days, but maybe I'll find a time on either a Sunday or maybe some weekday night. I'll find a little bit of time to stream some Godforge while I'm in some of the alpha, because I should be allowed to do that as well. And I'm certainly looking forward to sharing this new game and this new journey with everyone here. So I would appreciate it if you guys would hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. This channel is going to be a different channel. This is going to be dedicated to Godforge, and I'm looking forward to bringing some interesting and fun Godforge content. So I'm going to try to break down some of the mechanics that I'm aware of in some next couple videos. I'm probably going to aim for maybe 1 to 2 videos a week, maybe 3 videos a week to start with, until we actually get the game and get our hands on the game. Once I get my hands on the game, I will certainly start cranking out a few more videos here. I do apologize. I do not have an editor for this one. At the moment, I technically don't know if I have the rights to use the music I'm using, so I'm going to use it for now because I'm not monetized. But you know what? If we get monetized, I can certainly get that taken care of. And if you guys like this channel and want to support me, I really do appreciate it. You guys are absolutely amazing. So, hey, until the next video, and until we get more on Godforge, I've been Bront.